right, I got another one for you guys. Going to talk about who won GamerGate. So I'm using this whole GamerGate 2 thing rumbling around on social media as the basis of comparison for the first GamerGate to kind of prove my point here. But spoiler alert, I think the gamers won GamerGate, and I think they're going to continue to win this little round of GamerGate 2 or whatever we're going to call this as well, simply because the whole narrative surrounding this SweetBaby Inc thing, they're trying to do the same things they did with GamerGate 1, but it's not working this time. And it hasn't worked since before this all came to light, because the popularity of these games were not based on, SweetBaby worked on them. No, the popularity of these games were actually based on people seeing the trailers and seeing how they were going to work and what they were looking like and passing on them. And that's what happened. So by and large, all of these games were written and released, except for the ones that haven't come out yet. But they're by and large, most of these games came out before the SweetBaby Inc. saga even was in the public sphere. Even before anybody was really talking about it, a lot of these games were released well before that. So we're going to just go through some lists here and use a couple games as the basis of comparison. First one up is going to be Hogwarts Legacy, the best-selling AAA title of 2023. And for good reason. It was a good game, and people enjoyed playing it. So what we're going to use is the follower count and also this player count. So you can see the follower 610,000. The initial release player count was 879,000. That's what you like to see. You like to see that player count number in a AAA title be as close to or past your number of followers are following it on Steam. The further past you can get, the better. Obviously, this is the most successful title, 800,000 over 600,000. That's what AAA aims to do. It aims to get as close to that as possible, as much success as they can garner from the sales and from the player counts. And obviously, if you're the studio producing this, the better basis of comparison is sales to player counts, so that you actually have those numbers. But we don't really have that. We only have followers and player counts for all these. So that's kind of the best way that we can do a comparison. So I'm just going to use that. So this is the AAA model. The indie model is a little different. The indie model, you don't expect to have as many concurrent players as you do followers. You don't expect to have as many sales as you do people following it, because the indie model is a different animal altogether. So we're going to use Cult of the Lamb, which is, again, a very popular game that has been extremely well received. But you can see 184,000 followers, and they have 61,000 players. But again, you're also looking at this number here. So as time went on, Hogwarts has been, 15, 20,000 concurrent players, and it's been consistent on that. Whereas Cult of the Lamb, it's also, 1 to 3,000, got to jump to 16,000 there. And now it's 3,000 to 5,000 players. So it's been fairly consistent, and it's actually gaining steam in the past few months of being out. So it's improving its player counts well after release, which is a good thing to see as well. And obviously this window is shorter, and the difference between release and nowadays is much narrower on the indie title versus the mainstream title. So you're going to see more jumps like this, just because the scale is tighter. So those are the basis of comparison. This is what AAA and indie should be striving for. This is the kind of player counts and follower counts that they should be seeing in Steam. So now let's go through the list. We're going to go through a lot of them and then get to the AAA at the end, because the AAA is really interesting to talk about, but we're going to blow through these real quick. So this one has not been released yet, but you can see the player count, or the follower count, is 3,400. Not great. Again, NeoCab player count, they started very low, so 157 players, and then it dropped off like a rock, and now we're heading to zero at this point. So this is going to be a dead game in a matter of time. After Love, also not out, but the player counts, it's about 3,000. Again, going back to Cult of the Lamb, 184,000 and 61,000. So not a super popular game. Not going to be a super popular game at 3,000 followers, but not terrible either. I mean, 3,000 is normal for an indie title, so you'd have to see what the player counts are. Again, South of Midnight, a little more, 7,500 followers. Hasn't been released yet, so we don't have player count numbers. And then here's Kingdom 80s. This one has been released, and you can see the initial players is 2,000, and then it drops like a rock to almost nothing. And yeah, that's heading for a dead game as well. So now we've got Shadow Gambit, The Cursed Crew, and again, these are all titles that have been determined to be worked on by SweetBaby. So we're just going through this list here and skipping like Gotham Knights, skipping Dungeons and Dragons, skipping Suicide Squad, and where is it? Valhalla. So we're skipping those until the end. So you can see that these are games that have not performed well, continue to do worse as time goes on, and they're quickly heading towards a zero-sum game at the end. So nobody's going to be playing these games in a matter of time. Again, we're going to go to Hyper Light Breaker. Now, Hyper Light Breaker is, I believe, a sequel of some sorts to Hyper Light Drifter, which was a very well-received game. The follower count is reflective of that, 29,000 followers. Again, they don't have a release date, so we don't really know how that's going to perform, but it is building steam, and we'll have to see what happens with that, because that's a well-known developer, a well-known title that SweetBaby's worked on. So we'll see what happens with that. That'll be interesting to see. I might do a video on that in the future once it's out. Next up, again, Humble Games, so a big publisher, and the follower count is reflective of that. 1,200 followers, hasn't been released yet. Another one here that's come out is the Goodbye Volcano High. This is the one that they were talking about the PlayStation showcase, and people were not happy to see like such an indie title to be featured at the showcase like that. So, but you'd figure getting that kind of press, like getting on the PlayStation showcase, you would see a lot more followers than 6,400. But there it is. And then the player count is just abysmal, 291. And yeah, it's a dead game. Nine players most recently. Again, another one that's not out yet, but 1,500 followers. And again, going back to Cult of the Lamb, 184,000 followers. So nowhere near that. Another one that's been released, Metric Empire. So this one is fairly recent, and you can see that it's a lot more jagged. So the scale is a lot lower, and also the numbers are a lot lower. I mean, this is a very small game, 4,200 followers, and the peak player count was 110. So again, if you're looking at player count versus follower count, this is abysmal. This is terrible. This is not what you want to see. You'd want to see something like at least 10%. 400 active players at release would be great. Ideally, it'd be 800 to 1,000 would be a more appropriate number to consider this a success. So again, another title that it's heading for a dead game, and probably will be there shortly. Another one, Sable. This is one that was very, very heavily pushed. I mean, I was seeing this thing everywhere, and people were talking about it a lot. It was showing up in my feed, and yeah, they were pushing this one real hard. And you can see, let's go to you can see like the follower count, 46,000 followers is not too shabby. But then if you look at the peak was 763 active players, and yeah, it's basically a dead game as well. I don't know why all isn't working. I guess they haven't recorded player counts from before the 6th of March. So something's going on there with SteamDB, but they do have the old historical record of 763, so we can tell from that. But yeah, just terrible numbers. Again, we're going to go to now AAA. So Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now we're kind of using our basis of comparison against Hogwarts. Hogwarts, 879,000 with 610,000 followers. And this is a major franchise. This should be a slam dunk, because Assassin's Creed games should be a slam dunk. Now, I know they've gone downhill in recent years, and part of that is because of people like the people that work at SweetBaby Inc. making things not as fun in those games. But yeah, that's the issue. So 58,000 followers, active players, peak is 15,000. So again, not anywhere near the follower account for active players. So that is a terrible sign. This is an abject failure of a AAA title, and we're gonna keep seeing them. So going over to Dungeons and Dragons Dark Alliance, now D&D. Wizards of the Coast has been working real hard at tarnishing the D&D brand over the years, so it's already on the decline. But 52,000 followers, and their peak active was 9,000 players. So this is what I would consider to be now. Granted, it is more of an indie. I would say a AA industry, but this is just abysmal. So 9,000 out of 52,000. It's AA. It's not indie. So I would expect that to be closer to that 50,000 followers than 9,000 active players. And right now it's a dead game. It's as dead as the indie titles. 16 active players. That's an abject failure as well. So now we're going to go over to Gotham Knights. Now, Gotham Knights came out considerably before all this SweetBaby Inc stuff, 2022. So it's kind of an indicator of what's to come. So you got 55,000 followers on Steam, and your active players was half of that, 24,000 players. And then it just dropped off like a rock, got below 2,000 almost immediately, and then now it's also heading for that dead game territory. 400 active players as of the 11th of March. That's in the next month you might see some zeros come out of that. So people are just gonna not play it, and like nobody's gonna be playing it. Literally nobody's gonna be playing Gotham Knights. So now let's go to a more recent title, Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League. You can see that the time scale is a little shorter, so you can see kind of that curve in action here. 40,000 followers. Peak player count 13,459. Now this is kind of closer to when people were starting to talk about SweetBaby Inc and their involvement in things, and this got a lot of bad press from independent commentators. I don't think I ever made a video on it, but there's plenty of people that did, and it got panned in the social medias, as it were. So it got roasted real hard. But yeah, people were just seeing the gameplay and saying, nah, this isn't for me. And yet, a DC game, Suicide Squad, I mean, should be funny, lighthearted, interesting, and, kind of a good platform for a video game to be based on. And it should have been like a slam dunk. And yet here we have, 13,000 active players down to 733 at last count. So yeah, this is also heading for that dead game territory. Probably in a month or two, you'll see zeros come up on that. So yeah, you're seeing the implosion of any AAA studio that would use DEI, as it were, in their games, that would push a narrative in their games, thereby using someone like SweetBaby Inc to make sure that happens. So it's not, SweetBaby Inc is not causing the AAA industry to die. SweetBaby Inc is the after effect of the industry already killing itself voluntarily. So these studios are trying to inject these politics to get funding. That's what it is. That's how this is all operating, is that the more they can check those boxes, the more they can get funding for the game to be produced, the more money they can put into it, the easier it becomes to make these games get out there without taking a huge loss. So that's how this industry, at least that's how I see this industry working. And that's why these games are bombing as hard as they do. That's also why they're not too concerned about the player counts. I know we are. They don't seem to be too worried about it. And I think that this is going to continue for a good long while. Some of these industries, some of these AAA studios are turning around. They're trying to turn the ship, but it's a slow ship to turn. They're big and bulky, and they take time to turn an organization like that around. But we'll see what happens. And like I keep saying, the space where it's at is indie, and not like these indies, but there are indies out there that are not doing these things. And why would an indie outsource anything that they're doing to another company, let alone SweetBaby Inc? Like a narrative company, an indie title outsourcing to a narrative consultancy firm? No. That should not ever happen. Not an indie. These are not indies. These are zombie corporations that are set up for the grift, and they're not producing good indie games as a result of that. So the end result is abject failure, you can see. And going back to my original point, so this is why Gamergate won. This is why gamers won Gamergate, rather. So the reason why is because these titles are failing. Gamers don't want to play games that aren't fun. And at the end of the day, they're your customer. They are the customer. Customer is always right. Customer always wins in the end. No matter how much you want to say that they're wrong for their opinions, they're going to win in the end because it's their opinions, it's their preferences that should matter to the people selling them games. So that's why gamers won Gamergate. That's why gamers are always going to win, because gamers are the customer, and the customer always wins. So, just don't lose so much hope on this. It is getting there. It's just it's a process. So going back to Grummz here, he actually put this out a while ago, and he commented on it recently. So the narrative formula, this is the thing that's happening now. It's the thing that happened in Gamergate. So do something terrible and wrong, get called out. This is like SweetBaby doing something terrible and wrong, getting it called out, getting journalist friends to write hit pieces, paint yourself as the victim, dox the people who did nothing wrong except to point out what you're doing as a warning to other witnesses, make up a bunch of fake incidents to false flag things when you don't have anything real to point to, and get Wikipedia to write an entry in your favor using your journalist friends as factual sources. So he said we're at step 7 because if you recall recently, Wikipedia locked down the SweetBaby Inc. Entry in Wikipedia, so nobody can edit it. So Wikipedia is involved. We're at step 7. He forgot step 8, which is in the end you win, because that's what happened last time, and that's what's going to happen this time. And this time, their tricks are not working like they used to. These tricks do not work like they did back in Gamergate, the original. So I don't know. I got more hope for this than I guess I probably should have, but it's looking good. Things are coming along. So just don't buy these games. And you're not. So, you're doing it right. You're doing good. Buy Cult of the Lamb, buy Hogwarts Legacy, play those games because those games are fun. They're enjoyable, and they're written with passion. And that's what's severely lacking in these other titles. There's no passion here. There's just soapbox preaching. And you can't win over hearts with soapboxes. You can only win over hearts with other hearts. And putting the amount of heart that the guy that did Cult of Lamb did into this game, that's why he won. That's why he got these player counts. That's why he got those followers. That's why this is a success, and the rest of these are not. So that's all I got for you guys. Hope you enjoyed the vid. If you like this kind of video, subscribe to the channel, and I will talk to you later.